In geopolitics, noise is common. Threats are common. But silence? Silence is usually a trap. For 2 years, Ottawa and Washington moved in lockstep on Chinese EVs. Same tariffs, same rhetoric, same wall. Then, on January 16th, that lockstep broke. Without a joint press conference, without a handshake at the White House, Canada quietly announced it was slashing tariffs on Chinese electric vehicles from 100% down to 6.1%. And immediately, the panic started. Not in Ottawa, but in American car dealerships. The National Automobile Dealers Association issued a statement calling this bad for our country. They're claiming this is about national security. They're telling Congress it's about protecting American jobs from unfair competition. But if you look at the numbers, that story falls apart. Here is the reality. While the United States maintains a 100% tariff wall that effectively bans Chinese EVs, Canada has just opened a side door. It's not an open floodgate, it's a controlled sluice, a strict quota, 49,000 vehicles in year one. And the requirement? Half of them must be priced under 35,000 Canadian dollars. That's about 25,000 US dollars. Think about that. Just across the border, your neighbor in Windsor is buying a high-tech EV for 25 grand. While you in Detroit can't find anything comparable for less than 40, this isn't just a trade policy divergence. This is a very dangerous game of poker with the United States. And the stakes aren't cars. The stakes are what happens in 2026 when the USMCA trade deal is reopened. Canada just grabbed a bargaining chip, and the US didn't see it coming. So, why is a car dealer in Michigan terrified of a policy in Ontario? To understand the panic, you have to understand the business model of the American car dealership. It is a model that is currently on life support. Right now, the cheapest electric vehicle in Canada sits around $40,000. In the US, the gap is even wider. But here is what most people don't realize. A huge chunk of that price isn't the battery. It isn't the steel. It isn't the software. It's the franchise tax. In the United States, powerful state laws, lobbied for by dealers, make it illegal for a manufacturer to sell a car directly to you. Ford cannot sell you a Mustang. They have to sell it to a dealer. That dealer marks it up. They add documentation fees. They add market adjustment fees, and then they sell it to you. Analysts estimate this system adds between $2,000 and $3,000 to the cost of every vehicle. It is a protected middleman economy. Now, enter BYD. BYD surpassed Tesla as the world's top seller for a reason. They don't just have cheaper batteries, they have a different model. Like Tesla, they sell direct to consumer. No middleman, no markup, no haggling. When Canada opens the door to models like the Seagull, priced at roughly 24,000 Canadian dollars, it doesn't just undercut US prices. It exposes the inefficiency of the entire North American dealer network. The CEO of NATA calls this an existential threat. And he's right. But let's be precise about what is threatened. He's not afraid of Chinese spying. He's afraid of American consumers realizing they are overpaying by 40% to support a middleman they don't even like. This is the Cinderella moment for the US auto industry. The clock is striking midnight, and geography matters here. 90% of Canadians live within 100 miles of the US border. That means millions of Americans live within driving distance of a showroom where they can see, touch, and test drive the future of affordability. You can ban the car. You can't ban the envy. According to Abacus data, 82% of Canadians want these tariffs lowered. They don't care about the geopolitical abstract. They care about rent. They care about groceries. They care about getting to work. Ottawa knows this. They have the domestic mandate to do this. The US dealer lobby knows that once this comparison exists, once it's visible, the political pressure to keep the US market closed becomes unsustainable. That's the contagion. And that's what they are trying to stop. But if you think this is just about Canada wanting cheap cars, you are missing the bigger picture. If it were just about imports, the US would be right to worry about dumping. Ottawa didn't just slash tariffs. They set a trap. The agreement includes a very specific clause. To access this quota and to expand it to 70,000 vehicles by year 5, Chinese manufacturers must establish joint ventures and manufacturing investments in Canada within 3 years. Does that sound familiar? It should, because it is the exact same playbook China used on the West 40 years ago. Go back to 1984. Volkswagen wanted to sell cars in China. The Chinese government said, fine, but you can't just sell here. You have to build here, and you have to partner with a local company. For decades, Western companies complained about this. They called it forced technology transfer. They said it was the price of admission to the Chinese middle class. And they paid it. They taught China how to build cars. Now, look at what Ottawa is doing. They are looking at BYD and saying, you want our market? Fine. Teach us how to build. It is China's own playbook, reversed. Canada is effectively saying, we will take your battery tech. We will take your efficiency. We will build it in Ontario. We will build it in Quebec. And through these joint ventures, Canadian companies will own the IP and the manufacturing know-how. This converts a consumer threat into an industrial asset. Think about the supply chain implications. If BYD builds a battery plant in Windsor to meet this requirement, that plant employs Canadians. It uses Canadian minerals. It integrates into the Canadian supply chain. And suddenly, that Chinese car starts looking a lot less like a foreign invader and a lot more like a North American car. This makes it incredibly difficult for the US to sanction later. How do you block a car that was assembled in Ontario by Canadian workers using lithium mined in Quebec? You can't. Not without blowing up the entire free trade agreement. This is the brilliance of the move. The US is building a wall to keep China out. Canada is building a filter to let the value in while keeping the control. Now, zoom out. Why do this now? Why risk angering Washington 3 years before an election? Because of 2026. The USMCA, the new NAFTA, has a mandatory review clause coming up. And everyone in Ottawa knows the US playbook. Look at the last few years. The US has slapped tariffs on Canadian softwood lumber. They have attacked Canadian dairy supply management. They have blocked energy corridors. The pattern is clear. When the US feels secure, they squeeze their allies for economic concessions. Pressure only works when you have no alternatives. By inviting Chinese investment now, Canada is putting a loaded gun on the table. Imagine the negotiation in 2026. The US threatens a 25% tariff on Canadian lumber. In the past, Canada would have to take it. But now, Canada has a new card to play. We can expand the EV quota. We can deepen the integration with Chinese tech. Or we can leverage those new Canadian-assembled vehicles to demand access to the US market under the very rules of origin the US wrote. It sends a signal to Washington. If you wall us out, we will look elsewhere. And you might not like who we find. These 49,000 vehicles, they aren't just cars. They are hostages. They are bargaining chips. If Washington wants Canada to close the gate in 2026, they are going to have to pay for it. They are going to have to offer something better than protectionism and high prices. This is how a middle power survives next to a superpower. You don't fight them on size. You fight them on leverage. The narrative coming out of the US right now is that Canada has, quote, betrayed the alliance, that we have opened the back door to a security threat. But that's a narrative designed to enforce compliance. The reality is different. Sovereignty isn't about closing your borders. Sovereignty is about having options. When you have only one supplier, you are a client. When you have two, you are a strategist. Canada just bought itself an option. Is it risky? Yes. The US could retaliate. Dealers could lobby for stricter border controls. But the alternative was to sit and wait for 2026 with empty hands, hoping for American benevolence. Ottawa looked at the board. They saw the US retreating behind a wall. They saw China looking for a door. And they decided that Canada wouldn't be a wall or a door. Canada would be the toll booth. And in 2026, we're going to find out exactly how much the United States is willing to pay. If you want to understand who really holds the cards in the next trade war, you need to see what's happening with the currency markets next. Click this video right here. I break down exactly how the dollar is reacting to this shift. I'll see you there.